We're being joined by Dr. Gilbert, Doctorow, who's joining us live from Brussels. Dr. Doctorow is an international affairs analyst, an author and an historian. Dr. Doctorow, this of course is a crucial moment in the war. The death roll has gone past 20,000 in the Gaza Strip. And what is interesting is that the UNSC is expected to vote on increased humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. But this is a vote that's been delayed 4 times already. Why do you think that is so?
The main question was to change the nature of the resolution that was brought to the UN by the United Arab Emirates, which called originally for a ceasefire. That was totally unacceptable. The United States rejected such a resolution twice, and the wording of what exactly the resolution could provide has been the subject of debate for this delayed period of 3 days that you mentioned. Finally, where we stand, the idea of a ceasefire has been dismissed entirely from the language. We have the question of increased humanitarian assistance. And there the blocking point is, raised by Israel, that they participate in inspecting all the incoming international aid. That is, by the estimation of the United Nations people, by the estimation of the Egyptians, whose border with Palestine, with Gaza, is the main transit point for any incoming aid. These two agencies in Egypt and the United Nations believe that Israeli participation will vastly slow down any aid transport that's coming in. I was interested to see your mention in your narrative on the status of the war, that there's discussion, or at least there was the hope, that all avenues of transport would be utilized to bring in the aid, including, as you mentioned, sea. Mm-hmm. There is a very topical question, because right now the other big issue in the war is the possible escalation, regionalization of it with respect to the Houthis' attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. And that is precisely the issue. Right. The freedom of the seas.
So I'll come Israel to the issue of the freedom of seas and what is happening at this moment in the Red Sea. But the question that I think a lot of people are baffled about is that there seems to be debate and discussion about increased aid deliveries into the Gaza Strip. There are 2.3 million people who've been denied access to food, water and electricity. Should it even be a matter of debate as to whether they should be sent more aid at a time when they've been living in a blockade for well over 2.5 months now?
If it were a just world, then what you say would obtain. However, we're not living in a just world. We're living in a world that is dominated by force, and Israel is behaving as if it were the United States. Over the last 30 years, the United States has gotten away with murder, literally, in campaigns in a number of countries in West Asia, and Israel believes that it can do the same thing. However, the United States never had a case brought before the International Criminal Court for war crimes, and Israel just has. South Africa has filed the papers, and I believe that is going to be very interesting to follow, to how quickly the court will act and whether it will have any bearing on Israel's further conduct. But that the bombing, the starvation, and the pure obstinacy and violence of Israel's government with respect to Gaza is, you've mentioned it in the lead up to our interview. Mm-hmm. I fully agree with what you've said. And the amazing thing is that even CNN, even BBC, even Euronews, which are generally following the policy lines of the United States, mm-hmm. have been as open as you are in showing to their viewers the tragedy that Israel is wreaking in Gaza.
Because in a world where everyone has access to social media, there's literally nothing that can be hidden, and this is what has happened with the case of the legacy media. But coming to the issue of the freedom of navigation in the Red Sea, the Houthis say that they are targeting ships that are bound for Israel. How much of a concern is that going to be going to be for the Israelis? Because according to reports that are now being filed, it now says that nearly 85% of traffic in the Red Sea that was headed towards the port of Eilat in southern Israel has now been affected because of the Houthis firing missiles and drones at ships that are headed towards Israel. Do you think that will have any bearing on this war?
Oh, it already has bearing on the war. It is the question: will this be regionalized or globalized? The effectiveness of the Houthi action has been much greater than you suggest by speaking about the transport heading straight to Israel. The whole of international container shipping has not accepted yet the United States' plan of assured prosperity in a naval force to provide safe passage to commercial shipping. The insurers do not support that. And so the effect on global shipping and the disposition of containers is greatly affected. But I raised the question of the Red Sea and shipping and freedom of the seas because exactly the same issue can be raised with respect to Israel's behavior off the Gaza coast. There is the blockage on Gaza is not only on land routes, it's on sea as well. And this is in violation of international rules of maritime.
I think you've summed it up beautifully there. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Gilbert Doctorow, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
My pleasure.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.